Hey, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Disability Channel Detroit. I am Zach Damon, and I am with the amazing, unstoppable Tracy Schmitt. Tracy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it is extraordinary to be with you, Zach, today. All the way in Detroit. I love the way TV shrinks our world and puts us with each other.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Detroit, we're a neighbor, of the great North, great country of Canada. And of course, we're all big sports fans, right? So, I mean, you're an amazing athlete. I mean, do you mind if I jump in here because you've done so many great things? Wonderful. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. So I just want to talk, for those that are tuning in. I mean, Tracy, you are commonly referred to as Unstoppable Tracy, of course, and rightly so. But you are, again, a Canadian athlete, a motivational speaker, an educator, many, many different things. But most importantly, you are a quadro amputee. And regardless of that, you've won a bronze medal in the Alpine downhill paraskiing competition at the Ontario Parasport Games, and you were inducted into the Canadian Disability Hall of Fame. And that's just a few of the things that we're going to be talking about today. But Tracy, I wanted to know from you, what was it that got you just sort of into athletics early on?
I think what's interesting is actually in school, they didn't even include me in phys ed. Kindergarten to grade 5, I didn't have phys ed. And
Mm,
as somebody that's a skier, a scuba diver, a mountain climber, a kayaker, all these sports, it seems kind of unusual that I wasn't in phys ed in school. But the bonus was, in kindergarten, I got grade 1 art. And in grade 1, I got grade 1 and grade 2 art. And so I just got the double art. So I'm actually the artist behind this board behind me and lots of other paintings. So I love my phys ed side, my athlete side, actually an international athlete. I'm in World Cup regattas. I love that you called out my Ontario, which is actually a national Canadian alpine downhill, but my claim to fame is sailing. I've
wow.
sailed with 27 able bodied men at an Olympic class qualifier in Melbourne, Australia.
Oh,
And
yeah.
everybody had their hands and their legs. Everybody was considered able-bodied. No visible disabilities like myself.
Sure.
I've always loved water and swimming, and so was always naturally interested in being busy and physical.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. So when I was getting some new legs in a prosthetic clinic, at the time, it was called the Ontario Crippled Children's Center.
Mm,
They would never call it that today, which is so funny. It's a reflection of our times in the 70s. And there was an 18-year-old that came in a waiting room and asked the receptionist, I'm a sailor and there are no sailing clubs for people with disabilities in Canada.
mm.
Can you please give me a list of names of people with disabilities? And of course, the receptionist said, for privacy, I can't share any names. But I was so lucky that I had outgrown my kindergarten prosthetic legs and I was
Yeah.
in the right place. And I'm like, I'll go sailing with you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so she took me along with her other able bodied kids in the summer sailing program. And I
Sure.
failed, actually.
Really?
I
Wow.
I have no legs above my knees and I'm
Mhm.
missing my arms. So I'm missing my left arm above elbow and my right side I'm missing my hand, but I have a bit of an arm, not a full arm, but it's the full length of an arm of sorts.
Sure.
And so I'm top heavy, right? Like 2/3 of my body weight, and then I don't have any legs. So every time there was a wave or some wind, I fall out of the boat.
Oh, no.
So, and that's what people would say, oh no, and I knew the parts of the boat and I knew the points of sail, but I failed because it turns out you got to be able to stay in the boat to get your right to level 1.
Sure. Sure.
And
Well,
I
and
went
I
back.
mean, yeah, and I mean, you bring up, an interesting point because sailing is super dangerous. I mean, those boats are going, big, very fast, cutting through the water. And I mean, if you go overboard, I mean, people can get run over. I mean, not to be, morbid about it, but it's a very, very dangerous thing. And so, my goodness, I mean, that also must have been, a scary experience, but you persevered.
Yeah, a lot of people like to say, "Oh, Tracy, you're like no excuses, no limits, no fear." And
Mm,
it's actually not true. Like I definitely have fear, right? Being fearless is actually not without fear.
mm,
It's doing it although you are crying, although you are scared, although you are petrified, although you have no idea how you're going to stay in a boat for in this example, but it's doing it anyway. And so I went back and I learned how to balance in the boat. But the bonus was like I had to figure out looking ahead. I had to figure out how to read the water so I could balance in the boat and not fall out of the boat. Well, that
right.
reading the water and healing and hiking on a boat, they were advanced study skills.
Mm,
So my second summer, I got my bronze 4, and all the other kids, they got their white sail level 2. And
wow.
then I got my white cell level 3, 2, 1. I just
Gotcha.
got my advanced study backwards,
Mm-hmm.
but it pushed me into reading the wind, reading the water,
Mm,
learning some high performance skills so
sure.
that I could sail with 27 handsome Vikings, attractive like you, but most of them were blonde and big muscles and all able bodied. And
Sure.
and here I was in Melbourne at an Olympic class regatta, a
Amazing.
qualifier for Olympics.
Wow.
And yes, I was at the London 2012 trials and at the Rio 2016 trials for sailing and skiing, but not skiing for London, but the I got to sail with able-bodied folks. Who would have
Yeah.
guessed the girl who failed would be sailing with all these able-bodied, even if I came last, right?
Mm,
30 out of 30.
right.
I would have been 30th in the world. Men, women, black, white, tall, small, lesbian, bi, gay, trans, queer, with a
Sure.
disability, without a disability.
Yeah.
And I wasn't last.
Mm,
I came 7th.
wow.
And I was just practicing my start line for the Paralympic trials Rio.
Mm. Wow, amazing. And I mean, such a history too. I mean, you even moved to Florida to be able to train more in the sport and do well. So how has it been, living in Florida and training? I mean, have you enjoyed that?
I certainly enjoyed that, and when this show airs, it will be a recent past. But currently, Miami-Dade has a horrific condo crash going on
Mm,
that blindsided some folks, and I have my gold Olympic coach and his life partner have some people they know where 5 people died in that condo,
oh
and
man.
so it you say was that fond memories? It was, and Magnus is now like a brother to
Mhm.
myself. But it he didn't pay attention to me for months. I had to
Right.
sleep in my car, hiding in his boatyard for 3 months, where I was washing and waxing his boats. For three
G-
months, I was kind of inspired by Karate Kid, but instead of cars, it was boats,
That's
washing and
right.
waxing boats before I
Oh my
finally
God.
got Magnus to say, "Come on, let's go
Wow.
sailing."
Well, and just another example though of your tenacity and your ability to push through. And we're gonna take a quick break, folks. And when we come back, we'll have more with Tracy Schmitt.